Hello, everyone. I'm Carl, a member of the CK-12 team, and my colleague Lindsay and I will be running today's webinar, CK-12 Platform for Non-STEM Users. We're so glad you've joined us.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay. Before working for CK-12, I taught high school English and video production for 10 years. So I'm really excited to be one of the instructors on today's webinar. Because even though I didn't teach a math or a science subject, there are so many ways that I could have used the CK-12 platform to make my teaching easier and to help students with their learning. So I cannot wait to give you guys some ideas.
The CK-12 CEP program has been overwhelmed with the response of this year's program. We love all the great feedback we've gotten from you as you venture through these sessions. It's also been great to get so many interesting questions. These help make our sessions much more interactive and engaging. Just to update you on some of the numbers, we have almost 1,400 participants registered for webinar sessions from over 60 countries. This is amazing. We know that 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific time are not ideal for our friends around the globe, but you guys are making it work, and we are so thankful. Please continue to use our chat window as a place to introduce yourself, share your work, what you teach, and it looks like you're already off to a great start with that. Just a reminder to make sure that you're sending your chat messages to all panelists and attendees so everybody can see your comments.
As a small nonprofit, we rely on our educators to spread the word to their networks about CK-12 and the free resources we offer. And we love getting on Twitter and seeing what you guys are saying. So I just wanted to open this session by giving a few shout outs to some of the recent tweets that have used the hashtag CK12 certified. So I liked Megan here. She posted a picture that she was watching one of our CK-12 webinars on the road to vacation. So I think that's pretty dedicated. And then our room gave an audible laugh when we read Elizabeth that said, "How I spent my summer vacation, hashtag CK-12 certified." Hopefully she means that in a positive way, but we understand the sentiment that teachers are always learning, even on your summer vacation. You guys are committed, you're here, you're doing professional development. And then Christine said, "Happy to be participating in the CK-12 certified certification process. I had just learned about CK-12 this school year and not realized the gold I had found. I can't wait to start customizing FlexBooks to meet my students' needs as well as to introduce CK-12 to my students and colleagues." Just a few more. Carol just started the CK-12 Certified Educator Program, but already found some great resources for lessons this year. We hope that you're doing some planning as you're going through the program here, getting prepared for the next school year. So Carol was just getting started, but Melissa just wrapped up her last session of webinars. So excited to use this amazing resource with my students. Thank you, CK-12 Foundation. And then she's, kind of helping to spread the word here for other people, tweeted out the overview page. We love that. It looks like Nancy was in a Twitter chat and showing people if they've ever wondered what that CK-12 icon is, that they should click on it, and then linked out to our Certified Educator Program. So if you guys have a Twitter following, I'm jealous. That's awesome if you do. But yeah, we would love for you to share your participation with other educators and just help more people discover CK-12 Foundation.
And a special shout out today for people that are involved with homeschooling. CK-12 is used a lot with homeschoolers, and I can see we have people from South Africa, Kenya, Pakistan, Vietnam. So welcome around the world to finding out about how to use CK-12 with non-STEM subjects. So why don't we pause here for a second and find out a little bit more about you on this webinar. We're going to launch a poll with a few questions. The first is, what non-STEM subject are you hoping to learn more about this webinar? Social studies, language arts, foreign language, arts, other. And then what time zone are you in right now? So go ahead and answer these two questions and let's see where we all are. All right, just a few more seconds here. About half of you have voted, so click away. All right, final 10 seconds here. All right, let's go ahead and close this out and take a look at the results. So it looks like the non-STEM area that's the most popular is ELA, language arts, and then social studies and foreign language arts, a good mix of everything. And then if we can scroll up a little bit on number 2 there, it looks like once again the East Coast is winning with a tie into the second central zone there. So I guess they're the most awake right now. That's great, with dots from all around. So welcome everybody. It is fascinating to see kind of how many people are really learning a lot about CK-12 this summer to go have a great year next year. Today's core content is going to cover a variety of subjects that are going to help you understand non-STEM on CK-12. As you've heard numerous times already, CK-12 has most coverage for STEM content, specifically middle school and high school. But our platform can be used in a variety of ways. So today, Lindsay and I are going to talk you through different ways of using our platform for non-STEM content. Specifically in this webinar, we'll be covering the following topics: non-STEM CK-12 content, navigating the schools page, finding contributed community content, and creating a FlexBook from scratch. Don't forget, we have a resource page for all of our sessions available in the Google Classroom. We are putting the link to the PDF in the chat window right now if any of you would like to access it. We hope you're finding these pages useful as you work through your CEP assignments and strategize how to use CK-12 with your students.
So let's start talking about CK-12's content offered in non-STEM subjects. I think it's helpful to remind everyone about the CK-12 Foundation's main priority when it comes to developing content for our users. One of CK-12's mission is to advance learning of science and math with world-class, multimodal, free, customized curriculum content and assessment on a digital platform that will lead to personalized instruction and reduced workload for teachers. So one of the questions we get asked all of the time, and I'm sure what's on your minds right now, is if there are any plans to expand our content to offer more non-STEM areas. And the short answer as far as CK-12 development goes is no, not really. We have comprehensive coverage for middle school and high school math and science, and have started to build out more elementary books, content such as our K-5 science books. We are working on new interactive Common Core math books, and our developers are working on the upcoming FlexBooks 2.0 release, and our interactives team is making more Plex and simulations. So most of those initiatives that I just outlined are focused on enhancing our math and science content to personalize learning for students. However, we were just talking in this room actually of like, most of the growth areas that you see in non-STEM are thanks to teachers and districts who are creating content on our site and then sharing it with other users. So we are always looking for other partner districts. If you are in a building that has an initiative to develop more elementary content, for instance, or you're working on language arts books, or you're working on social studies books, please make our team aware of that, because there are some things that we can do on our end to kind of help with that process. I'm going to show you the importance of community contributed content throughout this webinar. I'm going to show you the schools page. And again, the more we can populate those areas, the more non-STEM content is available to everyone. But the first thing that I want to show you is the non-STEM content that CK-12 does have available for you. On our homepage, when you browse different subjects, you will see a few English branches and some subjects listed under more. So some of the FlexBooks that are available in these subject areas include, under writing, we have a common sense composition book. We have journalism, a Glyphata method, it's a way of writing essays. Spelling, somebody was just asking in the chat about spelling. I'll talk a little bit more about that. We have a student materials book and then a teacher edition. In history, we have a couple of source books, an advanced and a basic US history. And then we have some health curriculum. We have Health Core, Skills for a Healthy Me, and a teen health literacy book as well. So those are non-STEM books that CK-12 offers. But unlike our math and science concepts that come with a lot of different modalities, like this is what you get when you go to ecosystems. you're going to get a lot of different modalities. You get reads, clicks, videos, practice, real-world activities. And for our non-STEM subjects that I just showed you, you're really just getting FlexBooks from CK-12. Spelling is an exception, and it has adaptive practice, and I'll talk more about that in a second. So that doesn't mean that we don't have interdisciplinary concepts that would work well in your subject area. For instance, I was talking to our PLIX team and was saying, what do we have that's really crossover concepts? If you've attended our interactives webinar, then you've seen some of these math and science PLIX. We have an interactives webinar happening this afternoon if you're available to attend that. But our interactives team makes an effort to keep non-STEM subjects in mind when they're creating their PLIX. So depending on your subject that you guys teach, we might have a PLIX that would be perfect for your area of study, or lend themselves to those cross-disciplinary units. Because we know in schools right now, there's more and more pressure to add math across the board, to add literacy skills across the board, because that's where the state testing is, and every subject is trying to include those into their lessons. So some examples of these types of crossover PLIX. This one on the screen is talking about graphs of systems of linear equations, but it's talking about President Jefferson's octagonal home. So we've got a little bit of an overlap between subjects there. For art, we have supplementary angles, talking about angles and lines in a perspective drawing. So this is creating line designs with using angles. For fashion design, here's one on matrices. It's talking about using the houndstooth, or creating a houndstooth type fabric. For cooking and home ec, we've got a lot of things that would talk about teaspoons and cups and milliliters, working on cooking. And then even for an area of like photography, we've got stem and leaf plots and talking about histograms. So you're gonna find content on our site that does overlap and crossover into non-STEM areas, even if the bulk of our PLIX we offer are math and science. So I'm gonna share the screen, my own screen. I'm gonna take you to the CK-12 homepage here. So give me just a second to get my page up. And here we are on the homepage. You guys hopefully are getting pretty used to how to navigate CK-12. But on the homepage, you can tell I'm in a demo account. I am logged in as a teacher, because up here I see the ability to switch to a student version. So I know that I'm logged in as a teacher. And under my subjects, it starts to, it gets familiar with what I think my subjects are, but I can always show all subjects here. And so this more category just popped up when I show all subjects. Make sure you do that if you're not seeing all the different subjects. So for instance, for CK-12 content, under English, if I go into the writing area, I see 3 of those books that I mentioned. For all of you language arts people on here, the Common Sense Composition book is probably the most comprehensive starter book we have for language arts. When you're looking at our books, we do have a couple of tabs here. Resources could include additional resources. Oftentimes people put PDF resources in this tab here. The details tab is what I wanted to show you though. If you usually get some information about how this book originated. This book came from San Jose State University. There were a team of writers who authored this book. It was created in 2012. It was last modified by us in 2015. Has a little bit of a description here. So you can learn more about the books that we offer in the details tab. And something, again, hopefully you're learning about our books, is that this URL here, all of our content has a unique URL. And if I wanted to share this with a colleague, if you wanted to email this to somebody and say, hey, look at this Common Sense Composition book, you can highlight this URL and send it to them. They don't need to be logged into CK-12 or anything to view this book. So you can have a URL here. You are able to customize, which we'll talk about more as well, but I could make any changes that I wanted to this book. Maybe I liked the first 4 chapters here on the different essay types, but I wasn't as interested in the units talking about literature, parts of speech. I could customize this table of contents to delete anything that wasn't relevant to what I was teaching, rearrange content, and then I could add in a lot of my own lessons as well. So if I go back, I'm going to press the logo here to go back to the home page. And we're going to look at our spelling again. I can show all subjects to see everything populate over here. And I told you our spelling was a little bit different from our other non-STEM subjects. And it's because for our spelling, we have broken it down into individual concepts, and we have created adaptive practice questions for the spelling concepts. So if you're teaching things like letters and sounds, consonant sounds, word patterns, compound words, in any of these menus, you could expand, get them on the concepts tab so you could see individual concepts for this. And then additionally, you're able to see our FlexBook textbooks where we have the student materials and we have the teacher edition. But on letters and sounds, if I open up one of these reads here, I'm also going to see, or sorry, one of these concepts, I see the read that's available, and then I also see our adaptive practice here as well. So whoever was just asking about spelling, I hope that gives you an idea of how to navigate our spelling a little bit. Don't overlook the search bar. This is a great way for you as a teacher to find content, and this is also how we're trying to get students more involved in CK-12. Instead of always going to Google and typing in what they're learning in class and getting who knows what popping up on their computer, if you can get your students in the habit of searching for content on CK-12, it's going to be curated, it's going to be vetted, and hopefully they're going to arrive at answers quicker for whatever they're looking for. But if I were searching for something, again, non-STEMmy here, I'm going to use photography as an example. If I search for just the key term photography, we have a lot of content on that. And so one of the first things for whatever subject area that you're in, do at least do some keyword searches and see what we have. So I'm on the CK-12 tab here. I can see that we have some real world activities. This is that Plix that I showed you earlier. A lot of real world, some reads that we think are going to apply. There are 22 search results, which is fewer. Sometimes you get hundreds, sometimes you get thousands. You're always able to filter your search results over on the left-hand side. By grade, I like to use the categories here. If I knew I was looking for a Plix, I could filter by that. If I knew I was looking for a FlexBook, I could filter by that. It's not showing the option for a FlexBook, so I would assume CK-12 does not have a book on photography that CK-12 offers. So that's a little bit of a tour, just an introductory thing here. Why don't I check in with Carl and see what do we have going on in Q&A? Any questions that need attention?
Sure. I think the first one is about, do we have any content for higher learning, like college level? And then what's our plans to expand into K-5?
Like I said, currently, taking the last part first, in K-5, we do have some math content in K-5 you're going to find here when I expand all subjects, grades 1 through 5, and this is going to be some practice opportunities for the math students. And then for elementary science, we have some elementary books that have been created, and we're still working on the adaptive practice for that in elementary. To get to college, if you scroll down to the footer of our page, a lot of our books can be adapted and customized to fit a higher education type situation. But CK-12, in partnership with a grant, has created some college FlexBooks. And you can see what we're currently offering on this landing page. We have elementary and intermediate college algebra, college pre-calculus, college human biology, and then origins in the search for life in the universe, which was actually donated from a professor at Yale. So college is a great place to look here. Again, we're adding content all the time to CK-12. We're getting donations. We're getting districts who are creating their own content and putting it on our site. So we're only going to be expanding from here, but I'm trying to give you guys the reality of where we are today and how to find resources that are going to be great for this upcoming school year for you guys.
Great. Our next question deals with what grade level would the composition books be good for?
I've spent a little time in the composition books. Again, it was used at a college level at San Jose State, but there are parts of that, having been an English teacher, that I could have easily used for as low as middle school when you're just talking about essay types, and there are some guided exercises and examples in there. For high school, I wouldn't, the Common Sense Composition book wouldn't have been an all-encompassing solution for me as an English teacher, but I could have taken some of those chapters, taken some of that content, and it would have made my process easier. I wouldn't have had to start a book from scratch. And so that's what I'm going to show you guys today, is that, you know, if you find any starter content on here, even if it's only 20% of what you need, 30% of what you need, all of this is free for your taking to use in your own classroom, whether it's in a FlexBook or whether you're assigning out individual reads. We're probably not going to get you all the way there in a non-STEM area, but hopefully we have something that just makes it easier for you guys when you're creating your content.
Maybe the last thing we're going to do is, there's a really good question asking if we're planning on adding any resources for reading skills. And if not, what's a good way to get started finding resources that I can use to create some of these things? And then he has copyright concerns about some of the material compiled that are being used online. And I know especially in literature and reading, this is a huge issue. So can you talk a little bit about that?
There was a lot of stuff to unpack in that question. We, like as an organization, we're having a lot of conversations surrounding literacy. And, you know, as there's a big push, that's one thing we hear all the time in meeting math teachers and science teachers, is how can they include more literacy? And so things like what people are calling our articles, our lessons, our real world activities, I mean, these can be used to enhance those types of skills. And we're having more conversations about how to infuse just everything with literacy across the board. Specifically, I'm trying to think specifically for your questions. Shoot, Carl, hang on, was it dismissed? Let me look.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember
more about how do you find great resources that don't violate our copyright?
Yeah.
So much literature is there.
Well, I was just working with El Paso School District. They had a team of teachers creating some English books this summer. And I was at their introductory presentation where they talked a lot about open resources and, you know, how to find them, which sites to use. And, you know, we're not really in the business of necessarily telling you where to go get your content. But as you know, there's a lot of good open resources out there, and there's a lot that, you know, you guys spend a lot of time sifting through to find the good stuff. And literature is particularly difficult because depending on the copyright of how recent that material has been produced, you can't just be copying, you know, current poems and putting them in our book. You can't be taking short stories that were published in a magazine recently and putting them in a CK-12 book, because that would not be license compliant with our license. But there's a lot of things that copyrights expired that are now in the public domain. And so you guys want to be using best practices when you're working on content, when you're working with partners or teams, of have some agreement, read the fine print on different websites and figure out which ones truly are compliant with our CC by NC license, which we'll be talking through in a little more detail here in a few minutes.
Great. So let's move on now. One thing that users don't realize about CK-12 is that a large portion of our site falls under what we consider to be community contributed content. This is a huge growth area for us. As more districts are using open resources and using teachers to curate and customize content instead of purchasing through publishers, you'll continue to see more and more non-STEM or even advanced placement and international baccalaureate books on our site.
So one of the best places to see some of these books that we're talking about that other schools and districts have created is by going to our schools page. And you can find this on our homepage. You do need to make sure that you are logged in as a teacher, because students see a slightly different homepage and they don't see the schools icon that's down here. Under the Explore title, I like using these circles. You've got easy access to our simulations, our PLIX, our adaptive practice, and then you see schools. The direct link would be ck12.org /schools if you just wanted to access it directly. But when you arrive at the schools page, it's going to automatically pull up books in the state you are in. If you guys were to do this right now, it should geo-track you and pull up books in your area. So we're here in Palo Alto, California right now, and it pulled up any books that schools have published and elected to put on this site to tag to a specific school or district. So this is something that's kind of confusing to users. They'll get on their state's page and they'll say, hey, why isn't my school on here? Or I know the school down the road is using it. This is by no means an all-encompassing list of schools who've created books. These are schools who have sent us an email and saying that they wanted to claim their schools, publish their books on our site, and make them available on this page for use by their students and parents and district, or for the purpose of sharing it with you all as you're developing your own content. So we would love for everyone to start claiming their school's page. If you're looking at this list, when you start exploring the site, if you do not see your school and you know you have school's books, we would like for you to do that. So to do this, you need to think of the appropriate person to claim your school. And this is often a technology coordinator or a curriculum director or another administrator. But when you click on any school, you'll see this claim your school option at the top, and choosing that will give you this pop-up menu. And we've just basically set up a template for you where, again, have the person who is most appropriate in your district fill this out, because we do have to follow up with them and make sure we're handing off credentials to the right person. But this is what gets the process started on getting your books on the school's page. All right. Let's see. So El Paso. You hear us talk about El Paso a lot, and we highlight them because they do have quality non-STEM books that they've made available for anybody to use. El Paso's committed to going open, and they systematically create new FlexBooks with teams of teacher writers and editors. So you see on their school page in Texas, they have all sorts of books. If you read the titles here, they've got AP US History, AP Government, Macroeconomics, Sociology, World History, and so many more. I did work with their teams of teachers. I know that this summer they were working on adding more English books, Spanish books, and some other social studies books for the upcoming school year that they should just be finishing up. Tim Holt is our friend in El Paso who leads this initiative, and he speaks to the CK-12 partnership and why he thinks it's so important to share resources in this short little video clip that we're going to show you.
One of the neat things about open education resources, Creative Commons, CK-12, is that when you create something, it doesn't just stay with you. You actually have to put it back up for others to share. And so whatever you create becomes part of the larger community. So all the textbooks that EPISD has created are up online for anyone to use. And we encourage people to use them. We encourage people to give us feedback. You know, we know that we can always do a better job. And if there's a school district that wants to use our textbooks, please do. We actually have been contacted over the years by many school districts that are interested in saving money. They're interested in open education resources. They're interested in having control over their, you know, I think Apple calls it controlling the whole widget, you know, from beginning to end. And so when you control the curriculum, when you control everything, including the textbook, you're in control of the whole widget. And that's something that CK-12 allows you to do. And EPISD is more than willing to share our processes. We're more than willing to share our books. That's part of the deal with CK-12, is that you're sharing what you create.
If you're interested in connecting with Tim Holt from El Paso or anybody else we feature in our webinars, this is the great thing about our community. If we've referred so many people to Tim or to Mike Nelson in Coeur d'Alene or to Dan Lawson, who we're going to talk about in Tullahoma, these are people we've worked with for years. And as new districts are starting the process, just shoot us an email to jumpstart@ck12.org, and we'll give you a digital introduction to some of these folks. And they can really, you know, they can hop on the phone with you, speak with you, share some emails and talk about best practices for how they made this happen in their district. So please know that that's an option. You can contact us and we'll help you get in touch with these folks. So another district doing innovative things is Tullahoma City Schools in Tullahoma, Tennessee. And EPISD started their process with science books, but Tullahoma started when they were up for a social studies adoption and decided to create books instead of purchasing them. And that year, they saved their money to purchase technology for their schools. They followed up the next year with math, and they've continued to expand to other areas such as language arts. But it's interesting because Tullahoma saw the potential of the CK-12 platform. You know, a lot of people come because, hey, I know you've got great science, I know you've got great math, but Tullahoma said, you've got the platform where we can create our books. We can house all of our great teacher-created lessons on your site and push it out to devices for students. And I'm hoping that that's what you guys are going to see today, is just this potential to use our platform in that way. So when you get to Tullahoma Schools page, you're going to see things like social studies books for grades 4 through 8. There are some ELA books for elementary. There's a first grade, third grade on up through high school, 9th and 10th grade. They've really localized their books to best fit their needs. So in the social studies books, you're going to see a Tullahoma graduate who then went on to be a Grand Ole Opry star. Throughout these books, you're going to see that they've aligned to the Tennessee state standards. And, you know, but when you're looking for language arts books on our site, and you know that CK-12 books are limited, one of these Tullahoma books might be what gets you your head start, even though they're talking about state standards, even though they're talking about specific graduates from their high school. They might have sections that you guys can pull from these books so you don't have to create a book totally from scratch. Several of us in the CK-12 team had an opportunity to visit Tullahoma, and I want to show you just a series of short videos hearing from 3 or 4 of their administrators and teachers talking about their experiences using CK-12 FlexBooks.
Yeah, I think more accurately, concurrently with the devices, we had a push for OER. We spent some time at Rice University looking at the OpenStax program, and we're really involved in a discussion that said, we really wish we could find something like this for a K-12 environment. As we started doing some research, ran across CK-12 and realized this is that missing link that we're looking for. This is something that will connect our devices to our kids with standards-based instruction that we think is valuable for them. So it really provided a sorely needed niche and connection that is invaluable for us.
I think it's obviously the future for education, and I think that CK-12 is only going to allow us to help to personalize and blend learning, which is the direction that our education program needs to head. Not just Tullahoma City Schools, but the nation as a whole. We need to offer what the kids need. We need to offer directly what the kids need, in addition to the adults as well. So if we're not personalizing it using technology, then we're falling behind. And CK-12, it's one of those tools that helps us move forward.
The great thing about CK-12 is they have a community contributed tab. So teachers are able to go access not only content that CK-12 has vetted, but also content that underground users have vetted or other districts have vetted. So teachers are able to go out and pull a textbook complete matched to the standards, and they can start utilizing CK-12 today without a lot of investment on curating their own content. As they work through the textbook, the beauty of CK-12 is if they find some content that they want to add in addition to what CK-12 has provided or another district has provided, they can go and add that content as they go. So they are constantly developing their textbook as a living document the entire time they're teaching their curriculum.
Our day when we do CK-12 or when we do a lesson in here starts with Google Classroom. That's where I put all of the lessons. I put all the links to CK-12 there. They do have their own CK-12 account, and they do have the 6th grade textbook in their library, and they can access it, any of the lessons, anytime from that particular place. The lessons follow this Tennessee state standards. Whatever I'm supposed to teach, that's what we wrote about, and that's what we included in to meet those standards. We might have an activity that links to an outside source. I might have it just written in there. I might link to a video. But that's an everyday thing. We don't just sometimes use CK-12. We use CK-12 all the time, every day, in some manner. I'm here. It is not a get on the computer and just do your lesson without a teacher involvement, because I handle this just like it's a textbook, except it's on a computer.
I use it more as a teacher resource. Instead of regularly assigning them chapters, I use it to house all of my instructional information, and then I will piecemeal give it to them as I want them to have it. So for me, it's like having all of my unit notebooks, but 10 times better, because I can access it whenever I want, and I can add all of those digital resources and access them wherever I need to.
Those were just a few of the hundreds of testimonials we've collected from teachers and administrators. You did see the husband-wife team of Dr. Dan Lawson and Karen Lawson, who both completed their CK-12 certification last summer. One interesting thing that, like Reagan, that last person was just talking about, a lot of the people we talked to at Tullahoma had created books just for themselves. She kept talking about how instead of having things buried in file cabinet drawers, that she compiled it all into CK-12 for her, and then talked about the new teacher culture with teacher turnover and new teachers coming, that she wanted to create a book that she could just share a URL with her new teacher colleague and say, here's my stuff, and not have to do a lot of photocopies, not have things in all different areas. It was all in a FlexBook. So lots of different use cases there. So the next thing I want to discuss is I just want to give you a quick tour again on our site of how to find this community contributed content. Because we showed you the schools page, but there's another way that's often overlooked on our site to do this. All right, I'm going to go back to the search bar here. And earlier we looked for photography, and it pulled up in the CK-12 tab some content. But I don't know if you guys have ever ventured over to this community contributed tab, but it's so important, especially for your non-STEM area. So when I flip over to community contributed, all of a sudden I have a lot more results for photography. And you can see this is not created by CK-12. We have completely separated CK-12 content from community contributed. I'm going to beat you to your questions in Q&A of, like, a question is how do you vet this content? How do you know it's copyright compliant? How do you know it's any good? We have a team of 35 people, and we give users the opportunity to upload items to our site to share with everybody else, but we do not go through every single item that's contributed. That's why we differentiate here. We've got CK-12, we stand behind this content, community contributed. We're excited that users are sharing the resources that they're doing. But you have to, open some of these up and look at this of, here's a teacher who's going to talk about ways to build a digital portfolio. This looks like more of an assignment for students of how to get started with a digital portfolio. Here is a photography and yearbook. Let's see, I'm going to open this up. Maybe this is what I'm looking for. It talks about sports photography, talks about candid shots. Might be a lot of great resources here if I am trying to compile something on photography. I could even come down here and, again, filter by FlexBooks, because here's a whole FlexBook. This is Digital Imaging 1, Digital Photography Basics. So now that this is a whole book, looks like it's got some great sections here on photography. So this example is truly just to show you that you can type something like, let's say you're teaching AP English, and I'm just going to type in AP English. You can search for anything that you think is going to get you close to what you're looking for. But here on CK-12, it's pulling up a lot of spelling content. I'm going to flip over to the community contributed tab. And now all of a sudden, I'm seeing this is analogy practice. Looks like it's got some SAT, AP English literature, hacking into literature, life in ourselves. This is a lit and comp book from 2015, 2016. I can see the author. I'm going to open that up. Maybe that's got some good content that I can use. Looks like we've got a summer reading list, some poems, things like that. So get used to using the search bar, even if you're looking for easy access to like EPISD, who we keep talking about with a lot of the good non-STEM books. If I type EPISD into the search bar, I can get a direct link that's going to take us to their page. And somebody on here earlier was asking about Spanish content. And I did want to show you, I don't know if you're talking about our content translated into Spanish, but EPISD did release their Spanish 1 2018 book. And we know that they've gone through the right process in creating these books. They had an author, they followed copyright best practices, they had a reviewer. So if you're a Spanish teacher, this might have some good material that you want to check out. And again, just on the home page, if I scroll down and click on schools, that's where I'm going to be able to see all of this different content for different schools. So why don't we look at what's going on in the Q&A before I talk about the last section, which is going to be those of you guys who are creating a book from scratch, what that looks like and how you might start building it.
Lindsay, our first question here is somebody wondering how to introduce the CK-12 platform in their school district. And we know that a lot of the people in the language art area struggle of finding content and using digital content. So how would you suggest this person share CK-12?
Well, if you're trying to pitch your district on it, some resources that we have that I think are useful in that situation is when you scroll down to the bottom of our pages, we have a couple of great resources. CK-12 resources, when you select that, you're taken to an overview page. The direct link for this is ck12.org/overview. We've had people have success with this page. If you're starting a conversation with a district of here's what CK-12 has to offer, we have a PDF flyer that you can download. Here we list all of our different kind of capabilities of our site and resources. And all these plus signs have an expandable option. We have short videos that are teachers, students, administrators talking about these particular tools and assignments. So this is a great place if you're looking to share and get people to learn more. Also on our homepage, this Why CK-12 video, if you click on this, the title of this video is Why District Leaders Choose CK-12. So this is also a short video that talks about some of the cost savings, some of the benefits, and how students are more engaged with their learning experience when they're using CK-12. So maybe some of those resources help you with your pitch.
Great. And the next question is, how, if we can translate into a local language and design our own stuff, that would be great. Can you talk more about how that process happens?
Yeah, a couple things related to languages. Some of our books are translated into Spanish by a Spanish-speaking person. For instance, let's see, I believe our algebra books. If we scroll down, we have Spanish books. These are books in our core subjects, so probably more in the STEM areas, which you guys aren't as interested in, but a lot of our core books have been translated by a human being into Spanish. But a beauty of our site, a really great thing, is that we have a Google Translate option at the bottom that you can select any language and you can translate our content into any language. So if you're in an English text lesson, a student who speaks a different language can click on one of these buttons and it will be translated by Google. So it's a rough translation. It's not going to read quite as smoothly as a human being translation. But this is very powerful for students who join your classes from other areas. As far as writing books, people are often asking, like, can I write a book in another language? Of course, of course, of course. And we're going to show you how to create a book from scratch. And you can type in your own language. Put it up on the site and promote it as a book that's in your language, and I'm sure there will be other users who would jump on that and use it. So you can use our. What I'm trying to impress upon you is that you can use our platform for really any of your different purposes.
All right, I think we should probably move on at this point, and let's move into the next topic, which is creating a FlexBook from scratch. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for a sec. So you've seen great ways to search our site for community contributed content that may serve as a starter FlexBook for you, but you're also able to start a book from scratch.
So this slide here, what you guys are looking at is you're looking at a lacrosse coaching manual. I was in Delaware this past winter and was talking to a science teacher who is using our content in his classroom. But then we got to talking about how he loved our platform so much that as the assistant coach for lacrosse, he talked the head coach into creating a FlexBook to use with their athletes. And he's like, we needed one place where we could put all of our like our playbook. We wanted to show them clips of professional lacrosse players. We wanted to get real video of them at practice, at games, so they could do post-game like footage review and things like that. So this is just the beginning, but they were starting warm-ups and drills, fundamentals and ground balls. So you can use our platform for anything. Again, we're a great place to house your content. We just need you to keep in mind how to be license compliant, because there are a few rules that you need to abide by. And so if you are creating a book from scratch, here Carl's going to talk you through like a few best practices when doing that, and then talk a little bit about the license.
In getting started with the FlexBook session, we discussed some of the best practices when editing books with teams of teachers. And I'd like to review some of these things that you might want to think about when working on non-STEM books from scratch. Form your curriculum teams. Assign one person to be the leader. Create a FlexBook in a school or district account. We really strongly suggest that you don't just put it on a person's account, but create a new account specifically for the development of these books. So for example, Spanish at episd.org. Then break up the work by chapter and maybe assign it to different members of the curriculum team. Use a common style guide because you want the book to look like it was all written by the same group, by the same author. Then add in any original content or open source content that complies with our CC BY-NC license. You do need to be license compliant. While CK-12 is free, it is still under copyright. It's an open copyright, but a copyright nonetheless. The most important parts of our Creative Commons copyright is that we require you to give us credit for creating the content and that you only use it for non-commercial purposes. I taught for 17 years and I'm definitely not a lawyer, but this is pretty straightforward. If you created the content, you can use it. If you're using CK-12 content, attribute it to us and don't sell it. If the content comes from a book, including the large educational publishers, you cannot include it in your FlexBook. We frequently travel to the Go Open summits where districts are committed to using open resources. It's been a great place to find out more about using open educational resources. Not surprising, over half of the districts use CK-12 to meet their commitment. And I encourage everyone to go to hashtags #GoOpen and find out more on Twitter. Even as a lurker, you're going to find a lot of things that you can do. You can also download this Go Open District Launch Packet to help you get started and figuring out how you can begin using more open educational resources.
Yeah, Go Open is a great place to get started for you guys who are asking about just where to source content from other places and build a book on CK-12. So I'm going to share my screen, and I want to talk to you about if you are in a situation where you are creating a book completely from scratch. Somebody just put in the chat window that they're a coach and thinking about creating a book. Anybody, if you want to start fresh with a brand new book, the easiest way to do that is go to your library. And I don't know if you guys even realize that you have this button over here, but in your library, you can create new things. So you can create a new modality, which could be like a standalone lesson, a quiz. We're going to create a new FlexBook textbook. When you create a new FlexBook textbook, the first thing that you're able to do is to give it a title. I taught IB Film Studies, and I'm going to name my book that. You can change the image on your book here if you wanted to have a custom image, and I'm going to save my book. So I've just started this process. There is now a book in my library called IB Film Studies. So now I need to do some things with this. When you're customizing somebody else's book, you're going to see the option to customize. When you've created your own book, or after you've made some changes to it, you're going to see the edit option over here. So I'm going to edit this book. And I need something in my table of contents. So we've made it easy over here for you to add some content. So I'm going to create a new chapter, and I'm going to call this, maybe this is where I want like my film syllabus, and I'm going to shove a bunch of introductory material underneath this chapter. I can add to these tabs here if I wanted to give some additional information at the chapter level. But at a minimum, I'm just going to create the chapter title. You guys could add a description, add in this other stuff, but I'm going to create a chapter title. So there's my first chapter in my table of contents. And searching for CK-12, again, our STEM users have great success with that. I've shown you ways that maybe you're going to have a little bit of success with that, but a lot of you are going to end up writing some of your own content. So add content with our writer here. And I'm going to, again, maybe this isn't really going to be my film syllabus, but let's say 2018, 2019. I'm going to shove this underneath my chapter. So when you create a new modality, or again, new lesson, new read, you're going to get to our editor. And hopefully you guys are getting comfortable with this if you've attended some of our other FlexBook sessions. You can type in a title at the top. You've got all of your options for bold and underline, italicize. But some of the exciting things is that, you know, the fun part of customizing our book is that you can insert images and multimedia. One site that I like that I'll just give a random shout out to is that I like the website Unsplash for images. They're submitted by photographers. They're free to everybody. It says at the bottom, do whatever you want, high resolution photos. So if I'm looking for like just a general image on film, there's a lot of photos on here, and I think they're a little more sophisticated than some of the other open stuff I would find. So I have the option here to download an image I found on the web. Yeah, I kind of like this one. This one works. So I'm going to download it, and it makes it easy on me. It says, say thanks. Attribution isn't required, but you can do it anyway. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to include that over in my, my lesson here. So if I want to insert an image, I can insert edit image, and I'm going to choose this file from what I just downloaded here. And I'm going to open that up. Gives me a little bit of a preview, but over on image options, we talk a lot about this in our advanced FlexBook editing, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but a figure versus an inline image, this is just an inline image. It's just being used for decoration here. The width, 5,000 pixels is like giant, so I'm going to scale that down to something that's going to be a little more reasonable, like 400 pixels. The source of this photo was Unsplash. That's the website I took it from. And then the credit, let's see, that's what I copied and pasted from it. The credit is this guy named Jacob Owens. If you're using your own images, you can give yourself the credit there, but this is how you give attributions to images if you are adding some in. The other fun thing, again, I think you guys can use the editor. I think you can add things to your book. The other thing that I just wanted to show you is that this insert edit media, it pulls an embed code. And so if I were in this film course wanting to use film clips, here's this famous stair scene from Battleship Potemkin. This is a Critical Commons, free, fair use site by USC. I can share and I can pull an embed code from here, and it's going to show up in my book, okay? I think you guys are familiar with YouTube videos pulling an embed code. I did want to show you one thing though, is that even Google Slides, I think even Google Sheets, a lot of Google resources allow you to pull an embed code as well. You can Google how to do this on Google, but in general, under File, Publish to the web here, because if you've created a lot of stuff in Google Slides, I think this even works in PowerPoint, there is an embed code link for Google Slides, and it is right here. And I've got some options for how I want to, advance the slides, the size, all that kind of stuff. But anything with an embed code, you should be able to embed over here in your book. So we're going to test this out. I'm going to insert media. I just pulled an embed code from Google Slides. I'm going to preview it, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that this worked. Oh, looks like it did. And I'm going to insert it. When you're in draft mode, you don't see what's in your media box. We have to finalize our draft, keep our draft to be able to see what's actually in that media box that's more of a placeholder. So there's my image. Here is my Google slide presentation. So if I make changes to it off of CK-12, those changes will be immediately reflected in my sample presentation. I need you guys to imagine that it's beautiful. And then down here is where we get our image attributions for this image that I inserted. So going back to my actual book, I can always make changes at any time. I can press edit. I actually wanted my film syllabus to be under this chapter, so I can drag and drop up here. So now this is a section underneath this chapter. If I wanted to delete it, I could delete it. When I'm ready to add a new chapter, I add a new chapter. When I'm ready to add new content, I add new content. And you start building your book that way. And again, I can save it. I can edit it as many times as I want. One note is that you do have a unique URL up here. You can copy and paste this and give it to your students. This R5 at the end, that means that I've now made 5 revisions to this book. If I were going to share this with my students, I would get rid of that R at the end, so they're always getting the most recent version of my book and they're not stuck on revision 5. But under my library, I'm going to now see my IB Film Studies book and this individual read that I just created. So that's just a crash course on books from scratch. We do hope that you guys will attend our Getting Started with FlexBooks and our Advanced FlexBooks sessions. Or I guess you can't attend live anymore, but you can watch the archive video in our Google Classroom. So I'm going to let Carl do some wrap-up information, and then we will open it back up to Q&A at the very end for any questions that are still pending.
Great. Thanks so much, Lindsay. We have a resource page for this session and all of our sessions that we've been providing as part of the CEP program. So make sure that you download this, and it's going to be a great way to remind you of all the great things that Lindsay shared with you today. And, I know that it's a little bit of a information overload kind of when you're in the midst of it here. So print this out, leave it out on your desk, and maybe in a week or two, come back and really think about how you're going to do this. Remember, there is an assignment, and you'll need to fill this out as part of completing the Certified Educator program. Make sure you do it within a week so everything's still fresh in your mind, but the absolute cutoff point is the end of July. All right, coming up in just about an hour, I'm going to be interviewing Niru Khosla, the Executive Director and Co-Founder of CK-12. And this is a really great opportunity for you to ask her questions kind of about CK-12 and where we're going. So make sure you register in the CEP Google Classroom and be a part of that exciting conversation in just about 60 minutes. All right, also very exciting is on Friday, this Friday, July 20th, we have live chats starting at 11 a.m. California time. And you can join these as a way where you're going to turn on your microphone and really participate in conversations with people either from your geographic area or from people that have some other kind of common binding idea, like whether you're in homeschool or higher education. So please take a look at these, look at the times here. And once again, please sign up through the Google Classroom.
Actually, Katie just put links to direct registration. If you want to register for the Ask Me Anything, she just posted that direct register link. Or if you want to join any of those live chats, click on the link in the chat window. It's available in Google Classroom, but we're getting you there through the chat as well.
Great. So take a look at the chat there. All right. So once again, we just remind you, please, we'd love it when you give us some feedback. We're always trying to make these sessions better. And the way we make them better is we hear some feedback from you. So let us know what we could improve on so that this could be better, because we will for sure be doing this again. Well, that's it, folks. We are done with today's session about using CK-12 for non-STEM. 2 more days of the Certified Educator Program left. So we are so excited that so many of you have been involved with this and that have really been sharing some really great ideas of using CK-12. So Lindsay, I'm looking at the Q&A window, and there's one question here. Will the chats be recorded? No, unfortunately, they will not. These are they're set up as meetings, and you go in and you participate live. So little incentive to actually get in there, but you can participate in more than one. So figure out which ones you'd like to be a part of and do that. Did you want to say something, Lindsay? All right, with that, I think we have answered all of our questions, and we're going to sign off for right now. Once again, join us in 60 minutes for a live conversation with Niru Khosla. Otherwise, we'll see you later.